Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate, as always, having you here. Also, welcome to Ash of Empiraa and Jason from Cake. As we've just been chatting while you're getting online, we're all in different parts of Australia and New Zealand at the moment, between Melbourne, Gold Coast and Queenstown. Today's webinar is part of our Founder Series. The three of us are founders or co-founders of businesses at different stages of life, and we all bring our specialist areas of expertise to the table today, but also our generalist skills in starting and growing and scaling businesses. So hopefully we can dive into what will be some really useful tips and ideas on the topics that we're covering today. Ash is obviously our strategy expert. Ash has built Empiraa, which allows companies to design business plans and help collaboration around your team. A pretty cool business strategy platform based around the OKR methodology. Jason of Cake, there's two Jasons on the call today, is our ESOP or employee share option and equity plan expert. Jason is the co-founder of Cake, which is a platform that helps business retain their best talent through best practice equity plans with built-in legal agreements, vesting and communications. And then myself, of course, Jason Ennor of MyHR, co-founder of MyHR, and really my wheelhouse is best practice human resources and employment law management for the day-to-day management and motivation of your team. And so those are our areas of expertise. And then some broader chat, just more generally about growing and scaling businesses. As always, send questions through. If we can't answer questions live, we do always get back to participants and we post and share those questions and answers on social and online. And of course, this session is recorded and it will be shared across our social platforms and on all of our websites once done. So if you can't last the whole time, you have to run away, you can always get back to it. So that's the general an intro, and yeah, let's dive into it. Really keen. This is something I'm quite excited about. So, as I said, the three of us cross over in some very critical areas, but we each bring slightly different expertise to the table. But fundamentally, today's session is really about the core to any decent talent strategy, and that is talent acquisition. How do you find and hire the good people? Talent retention. How do you keep them once you've got them? And then motivation and reward, which leads to performance or performance management, of course, if you're not achieving the goals that you have set. So out of today, we'd like you to take away some key insights to help you in these areas. We'll each talk about our unique part, and then as I'm the host, I'll kick it off, and then I'll probably ask a few questions as we go and sort of run a bit of a panel discussion as well. So in reality, it all really starts with strategy. A good communicated strategic direction sets a clear parameter for success and failure in any business, and that strategic direction has a cascade effect on a bunch of key result areas or KPIs that can be really easily measured and managed. But in practice, what we've all found, Ash, Jason and I, is that businesses come at this from all sorts of different areas. They don't necessarily start with strategy. So an example might be a MyHR client reaches out to us and asks us to help them build best practice performance reviews linked to company strategy, and we find that there's actually not really a clear strategic direction in the company, and it's not clearly communicated anyway. So linking a performance review to something that's not understood by the team is somewhat irrelevant. So we need to then come through and start doing some work with Ash. Equally, someone might reach out to Jason at Cake and say, look, we need ESOP. We've read about it. We've heard it's the next big thing. This graffiti artist at Facebook was a millionaire because he took shares instead of getting paid cash. We want to do that. And Jason and his team will get in there and realize that the business is really built on a bit of a house of cards. No decent employment contracts, policies and processes that will knit it together and tie an ESOP into an easily measurable and milestone-driven incentive, which is what it's all about. Or potentially Empiraa have built the strategy first, and then when a company wants to reward and link people to that strategy, they don't know how to do it. So the point I'm making is that even though we say strategy is where it all starts, we acknowledge that all of you are at different stages in your business life cycle. So don't freak out. You can come at this from any angle. Experts like us are here to knit this thing together and make it work for you. So the order of speaking today, instead of starting with the strategy at the top with Ash, we'll start at the bottom and build up. So I'll go through what we recommend you do and pass then on to Jason and then on to Ash. So for me and for MyHR, and the lens that I bring to this is fundamental of what I have built and what we have built with MyHR, and that is the foundation of good quality employment relationship. Decent compliance, decent process, and decent structure around how you engage and manage and employ your team. We do this through tech, and we do this through human support and advice. It's a hybrid model that we offer. And it's fundamentally just things like quality contracts, decent policies and processes. Employees are engaged or disengaged really early if you can or you can't get it together to just front with a decent employment contract or pay them on time at the end of their first week of working for you. So this stuff is fundamental to everything that then follows. No amount of fancy schemes or pinball machines in the office or whatever it may be will amount to much if fundamentally your employees do not trust you. So this is what is commonly known as the hygiene factors, right? It's your ticket to entry in the game of employment. You need to get these things right. These are the things that will make you look credible, that will make you look like a good quality and trusted employer. We made a verbal offer, and when we sent you the contract, it matched what we said. You know, when you offer someone a job over the phone and you promise them a car or a bonus scheme, and they get some contract that you've copied off a template online and it references none of these things, there's immediately a little seed of distrust sown. So this is what the hygiene factors are, because those hygiene factors allow you to then move forward in the employment relationship and do really the cool shit that counts, right? Start linking your people and their performance in their day-to-day strategy. Implement employee share option schemes. Do some fun stuff. Do the engagement things that actually really connect your team, but they don't work without trust. So hygiene factors are fundamental. Remember, the salary or the wage is not an incentive. That's part of the value exchange. That's the money the person gets for the hours of work that they are giving to you. So this is part of the hygiene factor. Get your salary benchmarked against market, good contracts, good policies, running slickly and smoothly, and away you go. And often, because our lens is all about small and medium enterprise, and we're unashamedly focused on you and on this group, this is where the corporates often kicked us around a bit, because they had the slick HR teams and they had the online induction modules and they were doing all this stuff. And we small business owners were racing around with Word docs and templates and forever trying to play catch up. And this is the power of the new world of tech and the services that we provide, that Cake and that Empiraa provide, is you can deliver an enterprise quality experience without needing a massive HR team to do it, because that's what we three do for you. So part one in this, build the foundation, get it right from the start, get those hygiene factors bang on, because once that is in place, you've now reached a point where your people trust you and you have trusted employment relationships. And if things go wrong, you can exit people quickly, because there's nothing worse than a culture killer being left in an organization and a business owner or founder being paralyzed with fear to take any action and dismiss that person. So foundation first, that's really where we come in. And once that foundation is established and you then ask us to help with better performance reviews and performance management and links to strategy and then rewards through ESOP, it makes it so much easier when I pick up the phone to Jason and go, mate, we've got a couple of awesome clients for you. They'd like to talk about equity plans. They want to motivate their team to be focused on the growth of the business, and they want to reward them at a certain point, whether that be a liquidity event of some significance, whether that be through listing or sale or merger. And at this point, when we hand the client off to Jason to do that, he and his team can really get into value add quick and early. So Jason, I'll hand over to you now. I'll mute my microphone and I'll let you tell us how you and your team can really help in this area.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Jace. Look, I think I love what you were saying about trust and hygiene. It's amazing how many of these employee equity schemes we find as well, you know, that just aren't implemented correctly. And it's so hard, as you say, to build trust with these core team members if the documentation is in place. So yeah, look, it's something that we're very passionate about at Cake, just helping all the nuts and bolts be there so that you can do those really important, relationship building things and work together to achieve your goals within the company. So I'm going to talk about strategy first. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot about strategy today. Ash has got the platform for that, but you've got to design the strategy first before you can manage it as well. So talking about equity strategy, particularly in relation to your team, there's two, major areas of value creation that we like to see people working towards. And the first one is the value for the employer. So why would you put the scheme in place in the first place? So on that side of things, we're attracting talent easier, better talent. We're able to engage our team better. The team are more aligned to the strategy and the goals of the company, and you can increase productivity and retention. So they're really quite a powerful tool for building and retaining great teams. I'm going to dig into a few of those in a minute. On the employee side as well, why are they a bit more attracted? Why are they more productive? Well, team members that are connected to the company, they feel properly rewarded. They feel like their efforts are being fairly, like the success of the company is being fairly shared around. I mean, a team where everybody's getting all the equity benefit and all the employees are working super hard, creating value and not sharing in that success, it's not as strong a culture. So there's some really strong alignment and just general employee happiness benefits from that. And then the big one's the financial reward as well. Employees, they can, especially in these new high growth ventures that we see coming through, achieving these big exits and listing, life-changing financial reward occurring through listings and M&A and the like. So, a couple of huge opportunities there, but you got to get it right. You can't just, I've got this next slide here just to sort of explain the unfortunate amount of complexity that you have to manage when you're handling your employee equity. So it's pretty normal for a company that wants to do their employee equity to kind of get the technical part mostly right. Like quite often you'll get a bit fatigued halfway through and not quite get it all done because it's so complex and there's just so much of it. And, and it's a shame. I mean, that's why we built Cake, because we don't want to see these schemes half implemented. We want to see them fully implemented and kept up to date so that then you can get the really nice outcomes from them. So you've got to set up the plan, the rules themselves and how you run the scheme and get valuations and so on and so forth. So you've got to get that stuff done. That's largely automated and streamlined by Cake. And what that then allows you to do is focus on the people part, which comes, much more into Jason and Ash's area. You have to have the right strategy. You have to have an employee ownership strategy, and you have to be able to communicate that strategy to your team, which Ash's platform will help you with. First of all, of course, you have to have all the actual important HR elements in place, and then you can add this stuff on top. So, sharing in the company's success. All right. So you could have strategy that says when we hit 1 million in ARR, you get some equity in the company, or it could be everybody's getting some equity. So it's nice and fair and transparent. We're all going to succeed when we hit this milestone or that milestone. You have to be able to communicate that clearly. And when and how do you communicate it? Empira's awesome for helping you communicate these things. Could be in the all hands, it could be in monthly updates, it could be in quarterly updates. You need to communicate to your employees like they're investors, because really they've got some of your equity and they need to see that going up in value over time. And they might need to hear maybe when a liquidity event or an exit's coming through. So quickly on attracting talent, it's one of the biggest issues in high growth ventures. 41%, this is a FinTech report in Australia recently, attracting suitably qualified talent. Really good people, heavy lifters, the ones that you need to grow your venture. They want skin in the game, and also if your competitor's offering it and you're not, think about how much more difficult it is for you to attract these great people. Employees are a company's greatest asset. Has never been truer than in a small business. You potentially don't have incredible systems and you don't have incredible brand necessarily. Hopefully you do, but these things are normally that grow over time. And so much of the IP and the customer value is with your team. You need to keep them as long as possible. Using your employee equity, you can help do that. So they'll earn their equity over 3 or 4 years normally, and they won't earn any in the first year. So this incentivizes your team to stay. And what happens is over time, as the company goes up in value, the employees are earning more and more equity each year. So they're much less inclined to jump to a competitor perhaps, or to another company where they're missing out on that really nice big chunk of equity each year. So awesome for retention. Significant productivity benefits as well. I mean, I think we can all understand how a team that has skin in the game is going to be more aligned and more inclined to row harder towards the goals of the company. And now I'm going to switch a little bit just to, teach or maybe share a little bit about how you can use your equity. So normally you would allocate 10% on day one of the company's equity into an option plan. And you can use that for your advisory board. So again, as Jason was saying, if you've got advisors and they're on a handshake deal, there's not a lot of trust building there. If you've got a proper ESOP in place and they've signed an actual agreement, and then they can log into Cake and see exactly what they own, what percentage of the company it is, and that it's going up in value, there's a lot more trust building going on for your advisors, for your first hires, maybe even a bit of sweat equity. Some consultants will work early on for equity. It's much more likely that they're going to, give you a good outcome if they've got a signed document in place. That first 10% of equity will normally last you all the way through to about your Series A. And then your big investors, when you get that first big professional round done, they'll normally want some more equity in place for that big hiring spree that normally happens after that round. So just quickly, the technical timeline. So, you need to get the plan rules in place, sign the members' resolution to put the scheme in place and get a valuation. Then you can start sending the offers to your team. Once the team start hitting their goals, and Ash is going to talk to this, how do you sort of help them understand when they're hitting their goals? Then they actually kind of earn their equity, which is an important milestone on the journey. And then after that, they can exercise their options and turn them into equity. This is the people timeline as well. So really important that you get those HR, cultural and strategic elements right. And then it's not just a go to your lawyer, go to your accountant, dump these complicated documents on people they don't know what's going on. It's a bit of a nightmare. You need to get that stuff done, but then you need to get up into that, cultural and strategic discussion about let's build something valuable. So, having the right FAQs and change management process, having the right strategy, getting the communication nice and clear, so that you can get the most out of your scheme. That's it from me for now. Hopefully that's very helpful around strategy for employee equity. And
thanks, Jason. Mate, I've got a couple of questions, if you don't mind, and then we'll get on to Ash and you can knit the whole thing together for us, mate. So tell me, Jason, are you saying that this is predominantly tech companies that do ESOP, or do you have clients in all industries, in all sectors of the workforce?
It's most popular at the moment in tech companies. It's almost a requirement now, once you sort of get a professional investor on board, say at around seed stage, that you have an equity plan. And certainly globally it's a requirement. It's becoming more and more of a requirement in Australia and New Zealand as well. We see it pretty much across the board. It's still a growing trend in SMEs in general. We're seeing a strong trend even towards phantom schemes. So where perhaps you're not using equity, but you could be doing profit share and special bonuses tied to the success of the company. So both equity and phantom schemes, as we call them, are becoming really popular as a way to attract and retain good people. And
do you do both, just to be clear on what Cake can offer?
Yeah, just very recently we've switched into the phantom schemes as well by customer demand. So yeah, it's a fantastic recent progression for us. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's great. And look, just to round that out, I think touching on a point I made at the introduction, these things are actually not as perhaps new or fresh as people might think, but they've often been the domain of massive listed companies. I had some shares when I used to live in Sydney and work for Woolworths, and many hundreds of years ago when dinosaurs still roamed the earth, And this was often a leverage point, again, for the large enterprise. We're listed companies, our share price is public, so we're going to give you some shares at this price, and they're going to vest over a period of time. There's a strike price, and there's a vesting price, and there's some upside to the employees. And sometimes that upside was significant, and small businesses just couldn't compete. What we're presenting here is something to say, well, now you can. There is a way of allowing this sort of liquidity event upside to benefit everybody, and it's massively powerful. but none of it works if it's not all knitted together with a shining light at the end of that tunnel that is your strategy. So Ash, I'm going to hand over to you, and you can give us the rundown on what Empiraa does and what you recommend in these situations.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Jason. And Jason, I mean, it's fantastic. The key thing here is with MyHR and Cake, you're simplifying things that just basically scare the hell out of any new founder. I started Empiraa 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, and people going, "Oh, cap table." I had no idea what a cap table is. I knew a little bit about HR. I knew a little bit about ESOPs, and you're just saving. There's no quicker way to go broke than spend all your invested money on lawyers. So, if you, I think the products are fantastic, and having MyHR to help build out your all your documents that you're required to from your letter offer to contracts to all your policies is fantastic, and have Cake helping control your cap table and helping you with the ESOP. They're just, then you can focus on the things that matter, and these are the things that can really take you away. And that's why, as a new founder, 2.5 years, I speak to a lot of founders. Last week, even at the hyper pitch night, and we're talking about just what programs you use, and it's just like, well, these are the ones, because use programs that add value. Don't worry about, oh, it might cost $50 a month or $60. These will save you so much time and so much pain and hassle down the line. Just an amazing time we live in, that we've got these resources available to us. But tying it all back to strategy, I mean, the reason why we exist is a lot of the stuff that you both have spoken about. Collaboration, and this is about collaborating with your staff, giving them vision, allowing them to understand the why, being able to bring people into the journey. And when you talk about, especially the ESOP is about bringing missionaries on, not mercenaries, and bringing people that are a part of that journey, and then rewarding them throughout the journey. And with investing share schemes, and then MyHR being able to sort of respond back to, hey, if I said I'm going to give you this ESOP, it's actually in your contract. But to have that in your strategy is super important. And if you don't focus on building a strategy from the start, you're just a dog chasing cars. And what happens a lot of times is we sit there and we build, hey, I built this strategy. Oh, what'd you build it on? Google Docs, or I'll put it on a slide deck. And suddenly you just lose it. So to be able to sort of tie these things back and be able to build really clear, succinct, collaborative strategies is super important. The reason why I'm here is effectively because I dealt with that problem for 15, 20 years, working as a C-level at SMEs. It's some great businesses, but strategically it was just a dog's breakfast. And it wasn't their fault. It was just because there was nothing to tie it all in. And there's reasons, and then when you do have strategies, you got unclear communication, you got ambiguity around responsibilities, you got lack of performance management, which ties into MyHR. You've got over complexities, and to be able to sit there and go, okay, what do I want my business to be, and where do we want to go, and who do I need to bring in to achieve this? That's where we come in. So we're a tool that goes, where are you now? Where do you want to go, and how are you going to get there? And once you figure that out, then you go, well, I need Jason to help me here. I need Jason to help me there. And you start bringing people into the strategy. It shouldn't just sit in the founder's head. It shouldn't sit on a Google Doc. It should be living and breathing. It should be a part of your everyday. It keeps people on topic. It's super important. But when it comes to people strategy, and I'll show you just a couple of little examples of we've put together. Through Empiraa, we've tried to keep it as simple as possible. Like, we want to evolve our HR, and why do we want to evolve our HR? Well, we want to evolve our HR so we can attract better people. We want to train them up, get future training and development. We want to identify any HR needs that we down on the line, because also as a founder, if you don't identify some stuff down the line, you could find yourself in some hot water or writing checks that you don't want to write. So no, HR used to be a dirty word. Everyone thinks of Toby from The Office, but you've got to really focus on these things as a founder from day one. But also the other side of it too is explaining to your team why you're focusing on this. Hey, we want to bring training and development. We want to culturally bring you into what we're doing as a business, because if you've got ownership through an ESOP, then you want to have ownership of pretty much everything of the business. You want to have a say, and you want to feel like you're not sitting in the dark like a mushroom. So, which happens a lot. So just having a real succinct strategy, just sitting there and going, okay, where are we at with this? Okay, we're actually 66% through, because we're identifying our HR needs. We're rolling out our MyHR to the team. We've rolled it out. So it's nice and easy to do, Jace. And then training and development. And then we use data as a storytelling device. So, my little dog is making his way to the rocket ship, because at the end of the day, you got to have fun with this stuff. Then going back and you're looking at your ESOP and milestones. So you're sitting there, Jason handed over, you've joined Cake, you're building out your vesting, what you're trying to do here, and you go, okay, we've got these milestones. Well, there's no point holding milestones to yourself and not showing anyone where you're at, because trust me, if my financial future is tied to Jason's success, I kind of want to know where we're going. So you want to be able to have a look and go, okay, these are our vesting milestones. We're 125,000 into our $1 million target. For the first milestone, okay, we're tracking at a really good pace here. Milestone 2, we're a bit behind, but that's okay. It's a bigger milestone. Milestone 3, milestone. So suddenly you're getting some clear understanding about where you're going, because when people are left in the dark and it come to make up their own conclusions on things, that's kind of where the bad things happen, because people are gold medalists at jumping at conclusions. And when you've got clarity, people actually will sit there and go, that's where we're going. And so you can track this really, really easy and really succinctly in Empiraa, and it's very, very simple to use. But park the Tim Shaw sales steak knives part of it. Having a management tool from day one, a strategy management tool from day one, is really a great way for your investors to also understand what's the plan. As a founder for the last 2 years and speaking to investors, they go, well, where are you going? What have you done? Where do you want it to go? To be able to sort of show them what you've done, where you're going, and where you are now is a really great way to identify to an investor that I kind of know what I'm doing and I kind of want to move in the right direction. So that's probably, that's a real short 9-minute version of what we do, but and how it all sort of ties it all in together. But having the 3 sort of pillars here, I think that you put it all together and you've got something pretty impressive.
Yeah, nice. Thanks, Ash. And that's awesome, and great tool, by the way, because we're using it too. And it's funny, this thing, and to just really connect this back to the audience, sometimes strategy just sounds like this enormous thing. You go, where do I even start? Do I even care? We're not that corporate strategy, whatever. But it's not. The thing is, you have a strategy, whether you are acknowledging it or not. And one way to think about this, and I had a mentor, a CEO, quite a senior CEO in the retail industry, and when I launched MyHR, I was about a month in, and he said, so what's your exit plan? And I looked at him and went, mate, I'm a month in, I don't have an exit plan. He goes, yes, you do. He goes, you have an exit plan because at the very least, one day you're going to die and won't be able to run your business. So if you're telling me you want to run your business until you pass away, and it's some intergenerational, handed down through the family type business, that's a particular type of strategy. If you want to list in 2 years, if you want to take over America, if you want to grow it for 10 or 15 years and then look at a sale or an exit or whatever, all of these things. And I said, we want to revolutionize HR and take over the world. He said, it's not a strategy, mate. That's your vision. How are you going to execute that? And of course it is. And so here I come out of corporate thinking I'm pretty special, and I hadn't really sort of figured this out. And tools like Ash's tool help articulate that. But importantly, it exists whether you acknowledge it or not. So you got to really put that lens back on your business, acknowledge what your plan is. Thinking about it in terms of exit is quite useful. So you go, at what point am I, as the founder, stepping out of this thing? Am I just handing it over to my management team and just fading into the background as an old guy, or am I looking for a big payday from some large, private equity firm or trade sale? Whatever those outcomes are will help inform what that strategy looks like. And then there's no point in then holding that in your head, as Ash just said. Getting that out to your team is critical. And then you can tie your team to it with rewards like ESOP or Phantom shares, which gives them a direct stake in the success aligned to that strategy. And it all knits together with a decent system like MyHR. And so that's the kind of wraparound that we're offering and really what we're talking about. It's best practice. Fundamentally, clearly we're here selling our wares, but you could remove us. You could brand neutral this thing, and the core principles of what we are talking about remain. Get a good HR system, have a decent structure for managing your employee reward and incentive and equity stake through ESOP or Phantom, and have it all knitted together in a clearly articulated, visible and communicated strategy. Whomever you use for that, those things stand. And if you do that, you will be a better employer. You will do better at the attraction, retention, motivation and management aspects of your people. And in this talent market, that will set you apart and you will beat your competitors. Now, we happen to think that MyHR, Empiraa and Cake are the best three to use to do that, but whatever you use, please get out there and do something and get this stuff going, because it's not as hard as it may sound. So,
hey, I won't say Jace. I've got a question for Jace, because Jace is Jason Atkins, I should say. You're very integrated into the startup community. How are you finding people doing the MyHR, like the HR stuff, HR function and the business planning strategy function at the moment?
Yeah, I was going to say, as Jace was talking, like if you're still using a spreadsheet or like manual things, or you're going to your lawyer and your accountant, I mean, what I find people often do, they'll go to a lawyer and they'll say, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And then the lawyer will give it to them, but that's not actually what they really need. They need to go to someone like a MyHR or an Empiraa or a Cake that spent years doing all the research and creating all the best practice and then productizing it. So I think largely you'll find a lot of people trying to DIY it and doing it manually, which is a disaster, because as a founder, you've got no time. You've got to try and find product market fit. You've got to grow fast. You've got to communicate with your investors, and you want to have as much time as possible to do those things. But, personally, I can't wait. We're just about to have our demo, with you, Ash, on the strategy side of things, because we've been doing it manually and it's a pain. It's hard. I can't wait to be systemizing that again soon. We only recently met, and I'm so excited about that, because, having someone like yourself who concentrates on this day in, day out in my corner, I feel like is such a huge advantage.
And we've got things like the API coming in the next month. You'll be able to create workflow automation, coming data straight into Empiraa. And I use the term the Empiraa effect, where you can just sit there on the beach. And I know you surf a lot, Joe. I think you both do, don't you? But you sit on the beach, you can look on your iPad and go, yep. There's one less worry. Where are we going? And we've all got so much to do all the time, and one of my biggest challenges is, what should I be doing next, like right now? And so to be able to go to a dashboard and see everything, and then be able to quickly dig in, to whatever strategy feels like it needs the most attention, would be, amazing. It's complicated with whack-a-mole, this thing. It's just constant, but it's brilliant.
Yeah, nice.
Wouldn't change a day of it. So.
No, it's great. We're mad, but I think everyone on the call understands what we do and why we do it. And yeah, none of us could get a real job again, right? I think we're all unemployable now, which is great.
I probably was for years before.
Yeah. Look, thank you so much, and many thanks to the audience. We had 100% sticking with us throughout, so that's a good sign, fellas. We obviously weren't too boring. We try to keep these things to around 30 minutes so the playback isn't too long. Please do fire through questions and we can answer them afterwards. If you're watching this recorded, then you can still get in touch with us through all our various social channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta. We're all sort of over everything these days. And look, good luck out there. We know it's tough. It's a tough talent market. Genuinely believe, and we speak from experience as founders of businesses, that the things we've talked about today, if implemented properly, will help you be a better employer and therefore a better business, and you will beat your competition if you're nailing this stuff. So if you need some help, get in touch. And all the best out there. Lovely to have you with us. And thank you, Jason. Thank you, Ash. I will see you guys soon.